I'm back in Chester, finishing off my Chester Millennium Trail that I started before Christmas. Outside Chester Cathedral, where we finished off last time, viewing the beautiful Christmas trees. So I'm going to head from here and carry on with the rest of the trail. It's quite a nice morning so far. So this beautiful classical building that's in front of us was the commercial newsroom and inn, and it was designed by Thomas Harrison, the architect of Chester Castle. So this fine classical building opened in 1808 and housed a newsroom, coffee room and subscription library. Harrison's commercial newsroom became a fashionable meeting place, rather like a gentleman's club. The narrow passageway leads to the charming St. Peter's Churchyard and the commercial hotel, probably the only public house designed by Thomas Harrison. We're just up onto the famous Rose in Chester, which is these enclosed shops up on like first floor. So this road here is 38 to 42 Watergate Street, and they include some of the best preserved medieval stone townhouses in Britain. These here are the largest, spanning 3 tenement plots and dates from the early 14th century. So opposite is Bishop Lloyd's Palace, Chester's most ornately carved timber-framed house, and it was built for George Lloyd, who died in 1615. He was Bishop of Sodor and Man, and then Bishop of Chester. Originally 2 houses built over medieval cellars, the palace was completely rebuilt in the early 17th century, although heavily restored by T.M. Lockwood in the 1890s. The elaborate carvings include biblical scenes, the arms of King James I and the legs of a man. Above is a riot of detail, including heraldic images and fantastic beasts. So this is Stanley Palace. This late Elizabeth townhouse dates from 1591. It was originally built for Sir Peter Warburton. It then passed into the hands of the Stanley family, custodians of the nearby Watergate, who were responsible for collecting tolls on goods brought into the city from the port of Chester. Its fortunes declined, and by the 19th century it was occupied as cottages. It was saved from demolition and possible reconstruction in the United States by the Chester Archaeological Society. The building was restored by Chester Corporation in 1935 when a new gable was added to the street side. So this grand building on the corner is Watergate House. And although Thomas Harrison designed a number of villas, this is his only townhouse. Harrison designed this house for his friend Henry Potts, Clerk of the Peace for the County of Cheshire in 1820. It has an unusual curved entrance flanked by Ionic columns which leads to an octagonal entrance hall. The letters ER over the porch referred to Edward VII, who was on the throne when the building became headquarters of Western Command in 1907. So this is the Watergate, one of the many gates into the city of Chester. We're going to turn right up here into City Walls Road. See, there's a trough there from 1857. So this is the Queen's School. The school was founded in 1878 as the Chester School for Girls. It was renamed by permission of Queen Victoria in 1882. The school replaced the city jail, built in here in 1807, a successor to a jail in the medieval Northgate. Public executions took place here between 1809 and 1866. And if I'm being honest, this end block here looks like a prison. Right, so we're going to be carrying on along this road. To my left are the playing fields for the school, and we're going to be following part of Chester city walls. Dating from the time when Chester was a major port, the water tower was built at the edge of the river to protect the harbour in 1322. The tower cost £100 to build. Over the centuries, the course of the river has changed dramatically, and the tower now stands isolated in gardens over 200 metres away from the river. So we've left the walls now, and we're going to be walking alongside the canal. Going under the railway as well. So these are Northgate locks. So in the 1770s, the Chester Canal connected the River Dee at Chester with Nantwich on the Cheshire Plain. To reach the eastern side of the city, the engineers built a set of 5 locks and excavated a deep cutting through the sandstone below the city walls. In the 1790s, a new canal was cut linking the Chester Canal at Tower Wharf to the River Mersey at Ellesmere Port. The original 5 locks were modified to become the present 3. Once an inn, this splendid little building was dated 1494 and formed part of a range of buildings known as Lorimer's Row. The Bluebell is a rare example of a medieval building outside the main row system. The detached cabin was used as a barber's shop in the 18th and 19th centuries and is the only one in Chester to have survived. Just going under the north gate. So this little bridge across the canal here is the Bridge of Sighs, and it is where prisoners would cross over to St John's Chapel here on the right to receive their last rites from a priest before their execution. So this is the Blue Coat School, sometimes called the Blue Coat Hospital. because it stands on the site of a medieval hospital. The chapel of Little St John was relocated within the south wing of the building. It was built in 1717 to house a charity school for poor boys, the first of its kind outside London. The boys were taught reading, writing and accounts. Boarders wore blue coats and the day boys wore green caps. The original structure of 1717 has been altered, most notably in 1854 when the central section was enlarged. The blue coat boy over the main entrance wears the distinctive uniform worn by pupils until the school closed in 1949. So just by the north gate again, I'm going to be going back up onto the Roman walls, but you can see here some of the original bits, what they were building on top of. This is Rufus Court. It's an award-winning development of the 1980s, tucked between City Wall and Northgate Street. It's an interesting courtyard development of small shops, restaurants and bars, which successfully blends old and new buildings. The two-tiered design by James Brotherhood and Associates reflects Chester's unique row system. This is the old Odeon Cinema, now a story house. It's one of the most prominent buildings in Chester. The Odeon Cinema of 1936 was designed in the typical Art Deco style by the Odeon Company's architect Harry Whedon. Odeon Cinema building is typical of hundreds of provincial cinemas designed by Whedon in the 1930s. However, to harmonise with the historic character of the city, the Odeon is clad in handmade brick rather than the more usual white ceramic blocks. So, as you can see, our last building is covered in scaffolding, and it should be this: the Westminster Coach and Motor Car Works. It's currently under renovation. It was designed by Philip H. Lockwood in 1914 for the Westminster Company. This replaced an earlier coach and motor works which was destroyed in a fire. It was still used as a showroom in the early 1970s. The restored facade was incorporated into a new library building which opened in 1984. and now it looks like it's going to become the Westminster Arcade. Chester Racecourse, known as the Rue D, is officially recognised by the Guinness World Records as the oldest racecourse still in operation. Horse racing at Chester dates back to the early 16th century, with 1539 cited as the year racing began. It is also thought to be the smallest racecourse of significance in England at 1 mile and 1 furlong long. The 65-acre racecourse lies on the banks of the River Dee, and the site was once a harbour during the Roman settlement of the city during the Dark Ages, but was closed as the river silted up, thus making navigation impossible. Towards the centre of the field is a raised mound which is decorated by a small cross known as a rood. It is from this that the racecourse derives the name Rue D. Rue D is a corruption of Rude Eye, meaning the island of the cross. According to legend, the cross marks the burial site of a statue of the Virgin Mary that was sentenced to hang after causing the death of Lady Troust, the wife of the governor of Hawarden. The legend states that she had gone to church to pray for rain, but when her prayers were answered by a tremendous thunderstorm, the statue was loosened and fell, killing her. As a holy object, hanging or burning the statue would be sacrilege, so the statue was left by the banks of the river and the tide carried it down to Chester. Less fanciful is a report from 1840 that the stone obelisk is the base of a cross that marked the boundary of the Benedictine nunnery, the nunnery having been created in the mid-12th century and dissolved in January 1540. The cross was known as the Rue D, or D Cross, to distinguish it from the cross at St. Peter's Church. So obviously there's no meeting on today, and you can actually walk all the way around the racecourse. Obviously not on the main track itself, but on these inner boundaries. So let's just take a walk down in front of the main, I don't know what you call it, stadium. How cool is this though? You can walk all the way around the race course. So we're just going past the main grandstand, I remembered the word, which is here on this amazing corner building, so I presume the finishing line is somewhere ahead. There's lots of restaurants and bars, So the restaurant here is called 1539. So that's harking back to the year, as I mentioned, that racing was first. Horse racing was first done here or mentioned. Fantastic. They look like Victorian buildings with the cast iron. There's definitely a walk to come and do. Go and walk around the racecourse. There you go. So you can lean out, pretend that the horses are coming. Just come up to the main gates in. What I'm going to do is just going to cross over this road and go back down the other side. I'm going to go all the way around today. This is local people making use of this, a free track to do your training. Who knew? It's an amazing grandstand, and then you've got these modern buildings over this side, nice restaurants. Presumes all these tables are spread out and there's a race on. So footballer Michael Owen lives in Cheshire and he trains racehorses, so I'd imagine he frequents here quite often. No, he doesn't train them, sorry, he owns them. Right, let's stop that there, shall we? By this time the wind was... you couldn't make out anything that I was saying. So basically, I just want to thank you all for watching. The Chester Millennium Trail is really interesting, and if you want to see some less well-known parts of Chester, I really recommend doing it. It's a self-guided walk. It's fairly flat, and you can download it. Just Google Chester Millennium Trail and you'll find it. I've got a couple more of these city history trails coming up to film. My next one I think is going to be in Birmingham, which should be pretty interesting, and I've got one from London planned as well. Other than that, I have got some more walks planned that I'm hoping to film, and quite an interesting one in a place that you wouldn't really think of. Again, give that thumbs up a hit if you've liked this video, and also please consider subscribing, as it does help me and gets me the encouragement to go out and film. Also, please leave some comments if you've enjoyed this or if you've learnt anything. I did. So yes, some comments would be nice to let me know what you've thought, and if you've been to Chester and you know a bit more information about these places that I've filmed. Right, take care, and I shall see you soon. Remember, stay safe and hold on to your hats. Recognised by the